really good conversation, and I was really interested. And I want to do really the whole point for me to be on here is just to say that I'm willing to have other conversations as well to talk about what we're doing with arts and culture in the city of Roanoke, Virginia. Today, the real focus is going to be on the Melrose Plaza project. And all right. I work both with the state, the Commonwealth of Virginia, with the Department of Housing and Community Development, and with the City of Roanoke. My focus over my career has really been on asset-based community development. In Roanoke, and actually throughout Virginia, the past 20 years, we've really been focusing on, or I've been focusing on arts-based community development. And when we talk about community development and we talk about asset-based, it's really about building on what we have, the strengths that we have. And that means people. And you're going to see an example today of real leadership in the city of Roanoke, the ability to align resources, the right leadership at the right time, and a supportive community. And this can happen from things can happen from any real starting point. And I'm really focused, I've been focused kind of throughout my career on that starting point. And when I talk about people here in Roanoke, I staff the Roanoke Arts Commission. And this is a picture we took yesterday after our monthly meeting. We have been focused on the role of the arts in the community, how we can use the arts to advance the community, and there's some real some good reasons for that. Now, after the pandemic, we said, we've always been putting resources into arts organizations, but if we believe that people are the strength of the community, what about the individual artist? And so we told City Council we're going to make it the year of the artist, and we're going to make investments in individuals and say, hey, how can you help us advance community goals? We wanted to integrate artists into civic problem solving. Let them show us how their creative practice and their creative process can help us explore and experiment. We paid the artist. We wanted to create a network among them. And the reason is they have that creative process and they are risk takers. They're willing to step out in front of the community and try something. So those connections are so important, and we believe it's important that we tackle tough issues with a sense of joy and a sense of play. But overall, we're trying to build a learning community. And our tagline across all of the arts and cultural organizations in the community is that we are creating every day. We're creating every day the place we want to be. That creativity matters, and we have the capacity, we have the power, we have the ability to come together, set a vision, and work toward it. Now, our artists have been just doing fantastic work over the years, really showing us what we can do. The community's been super supportive of it all along. We're not just paying artists to do project to kind of paint a picture or to do a project. We're paying artists to engage with us in the planning process so that we can lessen the distance between government and people. So the artists, they're neighborhood residents. As they advance, as they advance us, we're building strategies to pull it all together. You'll see in the top left, that's our artists in residence at a training one year. We had 22 artists in residence working last year with the city. We have a program called Arts Connect Neighbors where we pay artists to do activities. If you can just get 8 or 10 neighbors together, we'll pay for the artists to come do the activity. And then we have the Daisy Art Parade, which is a way of getting together in neighborhood groups, getting together in senior groups or youth groups, creating art together, and then we celebrate it together. Now, all of that and our public art program, all of it really now is focused on neighborhoods. And we have an emerging neighborhood vision. And these are neighborhoods that have been disinvested in because of loss of industry or because of urban renewal. And you can see in this map, we've got some blue spots that are kind of nice, strong, walkable districts, but they're not all across our community. And we're asking, how can the arts be a part of helping to shape that vision? We've got 5 emerging neighborhoods that we're working through the Main Street strategy on. Now, one of those is Melrose Plaza. And I can just imagine in the future when we say Melrose Plaza, it's not just going to mean this one particular site. It's going to mean that whole neighborhood. And so that's the path we're on. I'm so excited that today you're going to get to hear from Richmond Vincent. He's the president and CEO of Goodwill Industries of the Valleys, and Donna Davis, the director of community engagement for Goodwill. Now, I have to say too that Donna's the vice chair of the Arts Commission, so she's doing double duty here. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to do a whole lot of introduction, but I will tell you that Richmond came to Roanoke in 2021, and I said right leadership at the right time. This has been quite a path, and we are so proud of the work that's happened and what's happened from the team that he's led. And that team is not just within Goodwill. That is a community team of many, many partners, and I can't wait for you to hear about it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. And then Donna, you should be able to share or
Okay. It's not letting here. Oops.
And Donna, are you pulling up the presentation?
Yes. You want me to pull up yours? I
You
have
know
two.
what? Actually, if you want to do yours, why don't you go ahead and you kick us off, and then I'll pull up the other presentation and go through that.
I just shut it off. Why don't we just start with yours?
All right.
It's not pulling up the whole thing. Hold on. I'm sorry. I had it all set up. Here we go.
Richmond's a share now.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but we're very happy to be here. As Doug said, I'm Donna Davis, and this project, Melrose Plaza project, is not only what I do for my job, but it is also a passion because Northwest Roanoke, where we're located, is where I've been born and bred. Been here all my life mostly. And so having something of this magnitude in our community is just amazing. We've always felt like a slighted or a blighted kind of community that's been kind of forgotten. And we didn't have a grocery store in this community for almost 40 years. So it wasn't a new thing, it was an old thing. And we were really getting to the point where it was, becoming detrimental to the health of the whole community. So people were asking us, and there were groups in the community who were working together to try to make a grocery store emerge in this community. They had asked Goodwill. We had a regional office in the building that we're now located in. Melrose Plaza is located in. The regional office for Goodwill had been here for several years, like more than a decade, and pretty much every year we were asked to open a grocery store, which is not something that Goodwill is known for. So the answer was always no. But we had a change of leadership. The CEO that was here when I started working was retiring, and Richmond came in to replace him. He was asked the same question. We want you to build us a grocery store, Richmond. And he first was like, no, we don't do that, But his brain was ticking. And within a week of them asking, I think he was back in my office saying, I think this is something we can do. Um, I was a little surprised, but very much so in a good way. Got very excited about it, and we just started from there. It was a vision that started with Richmond and his chief officers, the board of directors, all were on board, and we started working on this project in 2022. Was it 21 or 22?
22.
22. And so I my role is as the community engagement person is to was to familiarize the community with what was going to happen and what we wanted to happen, and what we needed to do was get their input because it is for the community, and we wanted to have their voice included in the planning. We created a Melrose Plaza Advisory Council and included members from different agencies in the community, churches, neighborhood associations, and also just community members who were at large community members. And we started meeting and getting a lot of input from them about what they saw, could be at the plaza. At first, I don't think they were really could not have that vision. They just wanted a grocery store. That's all they wanted. But once they started seeing what could be, they started joining in and having a lot of great ideas and input and suggestions on the direction that this project would go. I'm not sure what the next slide is. I know Richmond is going to talk to us about how this got started, how we started with the transformation, and about the funding efforts that we used to get this project on board. So I think I'm gonna turn it over to Richmond, and if I can come back in with more community engagement information once he gives you that information.
Outstanding. Thank you, Donna. And thank you, Doug, for bringing us all together today on a transformational topic I think is really important. And so, as Doug mentioned, my name is Richmond Vincent. I'm the president and CEO of Goodwill of the Valleys. We're based here in Roanoke, Virginia, the Star City. And then you've also met Donna. And for those of you who understand Goodwill, your or the Goodwill for your territory is the Morgan Memorial Goodwill, which is the birthplace of Goodwill. So you guys are in good hands with that Goodwill and their leader, Joanne Hilferty. And so what I want to do, we're going to take you through the presentation, and then afterwards, want you to ask some questions. But I think it's good for you to really understand the essence of how not only it began, but how we've developed the sustainability for this project. Because it's one thing to build it, but can you sustain it is really important. And so, all right. So if I could just real quickly, just give you really an overview of our organization because it really sets the stage as to how could they do this or why did they do this project. So, Goodwill is a social enterprise, and in our particular territory, you can see there we have 39 stores. We have over 1,000 employees, and you see our vision and mission is very simple, and that's to eliminate poverty in Virginia. And so I like to share the strategic initiative because we have been doing a lot of our programs for dozens of years. I mean, some we've had for 30, 40 years. And some of those programs we were really good at, we weren't great. So we made the decision to say, let's answer 3 questions about our programmatic focus going forward. And so you can see the 3 questions here. What are we passionate about? What can we be the best at in the world? And what's going to help drive the cash in order to fund these initiatives? And so we divested from 22 of our what I call legacy programs. And so we just didn't stop doing those programs. What we did is we found other community partners who were doing the same thing. Because here, because we have a much smaller community, we had a lot of duplication of effort. And so we said, hey, these other organizations, they're doing a great job. Let's let them focus on that particular service, and then we can pivot to providing a service in the community that is currently not being served. So there were almost 22 programs that we transitioned to other community providers. Again, I just want to stress, we did not leave anyone behind. We made sure every single program, every single person that we were serving had a place to go. And in fact, many of those folks now, they're actually getting better service because the programs they're with now, that's all they do. They don't do multiple programs like we were doing. And so we said we want to focus on just 3 things. Our retail operations, which funds the items here. We're going to focus on our adult high school, and we're going to focus on virtual career navigation. And 2 things we want to make sure it did. had tremendous impact and was sustainable because we've noticed there's, especially now with, with the, refined public funding from the federal government, there's a lot of programs that have went by the wayside. So we want to make sure that whatever we were going to do, we can sustain it for the foreseeable future. And so that brings us to Melrose Plaza. And so Melrose Plaza there's actually the road Melrose Plaza, so that's where it comes from. This facility was as Donna mentioned, our corporate headquarters. And so we were able to leverage that, which is about 130,000 square feet, for this entire project. So we moved all of our services out of this facility and leveraged the entire space for this project. But let me first start with Roanoke. And I'm sure many of you can also relate to this same scenario in terms of this area was a Black Wall Street. It was just a dynamic, just a very, very prosperous place for the African American community. And what I love the most, it was self-sufficient. It was really driven by employment through Norfolk Southern Railway, which has subsequently relocated out of state. But it was a huge source of employment for the entire Southwest Virginia, not just the Roanoke area. And man, it was popular. And you can see these great entertainers that would come here and perform. It just was such a dynamic place until urban renewal. And I know many cities across the country have experienced this. I experienced this in my birthplace in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Went to the same thing about urban renewal, and it just really disrupted the entire community. And why particular though Northwest Roanoke? One, the poverty rate, gun violence. There are over 14,000 folks in this community who do not have a high school diploma or a GED, and they're over 18 years old. But the most important factor for us was folks who lived in the zip code where our facility is located live 6 years less than residents in adjacent neighborhoods. And for us, this was really the drop the mic moment for us to say, this is unacceptable, totally unacceptable. Somebody had to do something. And we said, this is our opportunity to be disruptive and really, really make an effort to eliminate poverty in Virginia. And so this was really our driving factor. Not to mention, it was also a food desert, and there was just a lack of livable wage jobs. But these are the factors that really motivated us to make the decision to, again, divest from past programs and say, this is going to be our focus going forward. And so this is where Donna's influence was just so valuable to us, because in order to do this right, we had to take the time to get the community input. So it couldn't be something, well, hey, Goodwill just thought this is a good idea, let's go ahead and build it. Because we had to get the community support, the community activism as well. And so we really had some good focus groups. Obviously, we had some community groups, and I want Donna to talk about that here in a few minutes. We had members of our own team, which Donna was a part of, and then our board, because this had to be board-led as well. It couldn't just be Richmond has a great idea, let's go run with it. It had to be an idea that the board embraced and the board supported. And so we developed a number of advocacy groups. The council, we reached out to neighborhood associations. Obviously, the churches were a big impact there. And then we did a lot of awareness prior to this facility opening in terms of being involved in festivals. Donna, with her background, developed we have Jazz in July. It's actually now Music at Melrose, but developing events that would really bring the awareness for this facility. So Donna, do you want to take a few minutes and briefly talk about this Melrose Plaza Advisory Council and how impactful this was for the success of this project?
Yes, thank you, Richmond. The Melrose Plaza Advisory Council started meeting January of 2022. We started right away. The way that I selected the folks to be a part of this, I pretty much had an insight into most of these organizations because of my connections to the community prior to even being at as an employee at Goodwill. I've been very blessed to be a part of a lot of different boards, organizations, and panels, and met a lot of great people. So I just asked them all if they would be a part of this council because I knew we needed a diverse group. We needed a group that was going to be serious about what we were doing. And so we wanted to make sure that across the board we'd have representation from all areas of the community. So we selected those folks and they started meeting, and immediately they're very opinionated. So we had some very lively meetings at the beginning. Very lively. They had their own ideas of what could happen here. And, once we got all of the ideas in the pot, then we started sorting them out to see what was actually, doable, what we could actually make happen, or at least start the attempts of meeting the needs of this community. That we went on the needs assessment studies that had been done in the past. The City of Roanoke had done some studies, and we had their information. We had information from Roanoke College. They had done a lot of surveys and gathered a lot of much needed data, which drove the project. We needed that data in order to really get into the nitty gritty of what was needed in this community. So we really relied on that a lot. But we had meetings monthly, and we also had them, the people helping us, they became volunteers when we were having our festivals and music at Melrose. They were always there to assist. So they became very engaged, not only with the project, but some of them became more engaged even in the community than they were prior to this project. And they're still very active. We're working on readjusting how we utilize their services in 2026 because now that the plaza is built, we need different services from them, but we want them to stay engaged as much as possible because, like I said, this is for the community, so we need the community voice. And I'm just very pleased with the way that they have injected their opinions. And we've worked well together. There haven't been any fights. We didn't fight. We just had loud conversations. But it was needed. It was much. I mean, everybody had opinion. You have to get those out, and
Right.
then we get to the point where we're able to work together to come to a common goal, and that's where we are now.
Perfect. Thanks, Donna. And I want to just reiterate how important that this aspect is of the project. And the city of Roanoke has been an amazing partner with us and continues to support our efforts here at Melrose Plaza. And so, um, we needed though to have this project rooted with a framework that was going to support our efforts to improve the life expectancy of the residents here in Northwest Roanoke. So we really focused on the social determinants of health because we knew in order to change the life expectancy, we needed to simultaneously address all five of the social determinants of health. We couldn't do them independently, we needed to do them simultaneously. So everything that we've done is all based around these social determinants of health. And so when you think about the components that we have here, so we just talked about the grocery store, and there in the margin to the right, you see which social determinant does it address. And the grocery store was really one of the central components of this. And so when we create the grocery store, we needed to create a full service grocery store. Not, this is not a food co-op. It's not a modified, grocery store. This is full service grocery store. And so, access to nutritious foods. We also, we obviously we take WIC, we take SNAP, and then we also have a program here in Virginia called the Virginia Fresh Match that allows us to provide 50% off to those who have SNAP and WIC benefits off of their produce. So it's really encouraging that healthy behavior. And I would say even more so, this grocery store provided 50 jobs that did not exist in this community before. Because you remember, if you go back to what urban renewal did, it took away jobs, and we did not have livable wage jobs in this community. All the jobs that we're providing are all livable wage jobs, full time with benefits. So this grocery store is a really great foundation for this project. We also just decided that we needed a bank branch or a banking financial institution in this facility. And so we had an organization that said, hey, we want to be involved. And they actually came to us and said, we want to be involved. We want to improve the financial awareness of people in this community and provide access to capital, especially for some of the small and micro businesses in this community. So that was important. We knew we needed to do a wellness center. And what's interesting about this wellness center, it is a proactive based wellness center. It's not a clinic because we have a couple clinics in this community that we don't need to duplicate efforts. But what we want to focus on is how do we address health issues before they occur, right? And get folks very comfortable at engaging in their health care. Now, if someone needs, further assistance or they need a PCP, we will refer them to one of the local clinics here. But we're really focusing on young people, people who may be pre-diabetic, someone who may be on the verge of, obesity or hypertension. How do we help them get on a plan and then connect them to a primary care physician? So really, this wellness center is an access point to get folks much more comfortable with the healthcare system. We knew we needed to improve cultural awareness. And so we asked the Harrison Museum for African American Arts and Culture to become part of the Melrose Plaza tenant. And they have been fantastic for us. And although we assume that everyone just knows their culture, they do not. And because in our particular area, they've really pulled a lot of, especially Black history, out of the schools. So now we need another venue to now educate our students on the expectations of them as they mature in this community. And so the Harrison Museum has been huge for us. And then lastly, the Excel Center, which is an adult high school. So it serves people 18 years of age and older who do not have a high school diploma or GED. And if you remember, I mentioned 14,000 individuals. So keep in mind, even here at Goodwill, we don't hire anyone who does not have a high school diploma or GED. So then you wonder, where are these folks working? Are they working at, in occupations that's going to have the upward mobility for them to have a mid to high wage job? And so that's what this school does. It helps them get the high school diploma, GED, along with an industry recognized credential. So they both come hand in hand. You just can't get one without the other. So they get a high school diploma and they get an industry recognized credential through our local community college. So these are all the aspects of Melrose Plaza. Again, this is all under one roof so that you can go in one set of doors and you can access all the services simultaneously. And so these are just a few pictures of on the left here and the upper right. You can see before, and then in the lower right, you can see the after. Same here on the left and the right, before, and the middle is the after. And what you see there, you probably can't see it very well, but it is a Sankofa bird. And I first came across the Sankofa bird through Donna. And what the Sankofa bird is, it's a bird that has one eye to the past and one eye to the future. And what it symbolizes is, hey, we want to take those great things of the past and bring them forward to ensure a great future. And so that's really the essence of this plaza is the Sankofa bird because he's taken things from the past and we're moving them forward to improve the life expectancy of folks in this community. And here's another picture on the left is before, in the middle, and on the right, you can see the middle is our atrium in common area, and then on the right is our cafe that is attached to our grocery store. So not only do we have a grocery store, we needed a cafe for folks to come in and get breakfast, to come in and then go get lunch, and a very area that's a very folks can communicate and talk and interact. So we wanted to have that there, and we named it after Henrietta Lacks. And I think many of you know Miss Lax. Her cells have been used for the past 50 years to cure a number of diseases and health-related issues. So we wanted to commend her and her family by naming this cafe Henrietta's. And so we are really excited about that. And so let's take a little few moments to talk about how much does all this cost? Because it sounds great, it looks great, it is awesome, but there is a cost. And so what does that look like? And so from a capital investment standpoint, the entire project was a $40 million capital outlay. And so we got funding from a few different sources. The first set of funding was from the City of Roanoke, who invested $10 million from their ARPA funds. And so this is really the kind of the seed money that really got us going and allowed us to really, develop a really robust set of offerings there. We did a capital campaign that garnered $3.5 million, and then the remaining amount is Goodwill's investment. And what we've done is that we've obviously we've taken out loans for the funding for the this investment. But so we are on the hook for 27 million, which we are happy to be. And so this gives you a sense of kind of the cost. And what I would say to you all is you don't have to do this elaborate of a project because you could start off with just a grocery store, or you could start off with a grocery store and maybe something else complementary. You didn't have to do this. For us, the tide was right. It was just a really just a conversion of different things that allowed us to do this all at one time. And our goal is ultimately to do something similar to this in 5 other regions of our territory. So down in Southern Virginia, we want to do something similar. Again, it may not be as expansive and robust as this project, but we want to do something similar to address a community in their area that's similar to Northwest Roanoke. Because again, I think we all would agree there's hundreds of Northwest Roanokes throughout this country, and so that is our role. And so we believe this will have both local and regional impact in our community. And so just really summarizing what you've heard so far is that we have a commitment to sustainability. That's why Goodwill is involved. And our responsibility is to fund this plaza going forward using the funds that we had previously dedicated towards our legacy programs. We're now dedicating that funding to Melrose Plaza. And our goal too, secondly, is we're hoping that we also spur other economic development in the area. So now, just like most communities, you've had businesses kind of go out of business and have empty shells. Now we're hoping that businesses will see and say, hey, we want to be part of this community development. So now we're going to open up businesses here as well. So that is really part of our strategic growth. And again, we want to make sure that we are creating an ecosystem that embraces health, that embraces education, and really looks at how do we economically empower the residents of this community. And so with that, that ends. And so, little man here wants to know, does anyone have any questions?
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can.
Excellent. Thank you so much. When you couldn't hear me, there was a great round of applause. So just to let you know, you want to give it? All right. Do you have any wrap up words, Doug, before we go to questions or?
No, I think that was a terrific presentation. It just make, you know what? My only wrap up thing was it makes me proud to live in this community. That's how I feel when I hear that, presentation.
Isn't that a wonderful goal for our Gloucester downtown? So, all right. So you're ready to take questions. If you just raise your hand, I guess yeah. And do you want to show the audience on the screen they can watch? Yeah. Okay, you're first.
Yeah, hi. In the presentation, I saw a lot of sustainable funding that's going on. When do you think that this project will be able to be self-sustaining, or do you think that you'll always be having to get other funding coming in? By the way, other funding might not be a bad idea if you wanted to give SNAP people 50% discount, but do you think this will ever be self-financed?
Doug, do you mind repeating the question?
So he was asking about sustainable funding. At what point will the project sustain itself, or do you expect it to always need an influx of cash?
I do expect for it to have the need an influx of cash. I think on the grocery store has the slimmest margins of any retail type of business. So, break even for us there will be 3 to 5 years. So we'll have to subsidize for those 3 to 5 years, but we believe after that it would be self-supportive, and any net income we make from the grocery store will be reinvested back into the project. So it's a solely, it's a kind of a closed-end project where we're not going to pull it out just to cover any other costs. It will be reinvested back into the plaza, and so again, I don't think there'll be a point where it doesn't, but that's how it was designed for us to be able to invest in this plaza on an ongoing basis, because this becomes our mission of our organization. And so we anticipate funding. Now, we will also look to have some additional funding, obviously, from the city at times and also from the Commonwealth of Virginia, but we won't be dependent on that funding. It'll allow us to maybe scale some things, but it won't be something that we're just constantly dependent upon, because I think that has been the concern for us as an organization, is that if we do that, then it could jeopardize the long-term sustainability of this facility, and we are tied to this facility for 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 life. So it's not something that we'll ever walk away from.
Could you
He
hear that
didn't.
question, Doug?
No, you have to repeat that one.
Okay, it was a two-part. Who runs the grocery store, and then also was it new construction? So what could you talk about the building a little bit?
Okay. So the building, it was not new construction. It was already in existence, and it was our corporate headquarters. So we just we gutted everything out and we built it from there. But we own the property, both the building and the land. So that gave us kind of what's interesting is by, we thought it'd be less expensive. It actually wasn't because, this building has been here for, I don't know, 50, 60 years. So there's a lot we had to bring up the code as we kind of rebuilt things there. The grocery store, Goodwill operates the grocery store. And we needed to because we had reached out to the Krogers, the Food Lions, some other folks, and they didn't, their model didn't allow them to be in a smaller community setting. They had certain, requirements in terms of household income, number of cars, and those different things. And so if we utilized that criteria, we'd never open up the grocery store there. So, we need to use the criteria of this is what's needed in the community, it needs to be provided. And so that's what we did. And, although Goodwill doesn't do grocery stores, we're in the retail business. So we understood how to operate it effectively and still have very competitive prices on some things lower, some things maybe a little bit higher, but very, very competitive pricing. I can tell you all outstanding customer service. And that was one of the things we said from the very beginning. We have to have great service because we all have been to the Krogers, folks been to Walmart, and we know it's hit and miss. No disrespect to those retailers, they're all great, but it's a hit and miss. But we believe this community deserved better. And we made sure that the customer service is great here. We made sure that the shelves are full. We made sure the meat was fresh and the facility looked great. It smelled well. It was bright. It was, all those things. When you walk into a grocery store, you'll know. You may think it's a health fair or something like that. It's not, but darn it, it looks like it and it feels like that because we want to make sure we pay respect to this community and they deserve it.
On, Doug. Just wait. Jason.
Thank you. You don't have to look at me. A couple quick questions. First off, it looks like an amazing program. Who
Thank you.
handles the other aspects of the plaza, the education, the healthcare, the cafe, and how do you maintain the funding that keeps those entities alive? And then also, more importantly for me, is what's your relationship with the City of Roanoke and the permitting process, and how did you partner with the governmental agency to deal with the changes of what you're making happen?
Could you guys hear that? Doug?
Yes. So a couple of questions there. I'll answer the first in terms of who operates each of these elements. So the grocery store and the cafe is operated by Goodwill. Goodwill also operates the adult high school, and that's a branded product to Goodwill. We have them throughout the country at other Goodwill organizations. The bank branch is operated by local bank. It's a banking institution. The museum is operated by the museum actually operates themselves. We, in partnership with Korean Clinic, which is our major healthcare system here, we partner in providing, the nurse practitioner and all the other support staff. And then we also have a library, which I didn't mention because it was already in existence. That's with the City of Roanoke, but it is part of the collective of the facility. So Goodwill, we have our hands in a lot of this because some of it we need to fill in the gaps that were existing, and so that's where we kind of fill in with the wellness center, and so that's really the wellness center, the adult high school, the grocery, and the cafe is what we operate, and we have partners operating the other facilities. And then I think you asked the question about our relationship with the City of Roanoke. That relationship is very, very close, and we work hand in hand with all the different departments of the City of Roanoke in terms of just ongoing operations and then support. And the mayor of Roanoke has been fantastic in terms of making sure to attend our events and then promotes the facility at every stop that he makes. And then we've also been invited on a regular basis to give updates to the city council and also other members of the community. So we have a really close relationship with City of Roanoke, and we couldn't have done this without their support.
And I want to pop in and just make one comment on that too. The dedication, the big opening day in August of this year was spectacular. I mean, it really was a proud moment for the community, and hundreds of people were there. And I remember looking around the room, and you could draw lines of almost a little map of, oh, I know how they're involved in this project. I know how they're invested in this project. I know why this project is important to them. And that was a really, really powerful moment to me personally. The library that Richmond mentioned, the city also, years ago made the decision not to invest in a big basilica of a library way out where you had to drive to it. Instead,
Hmm.
they said, we are going to invest in our neighborhood center libraries. And they have continued on that path and have a cycle of investing in the libraries in the neighborhoods. And when they opened this one, it immediately became my favorite library. And at that point, already they were working very closely with Goodwill. You could walk into a meeting room from the library side into Goodwill that they shared. They were also proud even at that, and that was years ago.
Mhm.
And I remember just a little insight. We had Dr. Ibram Kendi come and do a presentation at Melrose Plaza in the library part in 2019. And we had people who came, we had 300 some people there for that. And people came up to me afterwards and said, I've never been here.
Hmm.
I've never been to this part of the community. And it was such a beautiful mix, and it kind of showed us what our community could be. But we've got a lot of challenges with people staying in their bubbles here.
That's
And
right.
and ideally, Melrose Plaza, the market on Melrose, this grocery store, will serve the neighborhood. But ideally, it's bringing people from across town too to come and shop and be part of a neighborhood and break through some of those borders because it is worth driving to. It's a terrific. I think it's beautiful. Yeah.
And if I could add to Doug is, so when we had the grand opening of the facility, we had the Senate leader of our state General Assembly actually give the keynote speech, and then on the first day of school for our Excel Center, the Governor Youngkin, kicked things off. So it kind of reverberated throughout the entire Commonwealth, not just here in Roanoke. This got the notoriety throughout the entire state of Virginia. So that was something we were really proud of.
Um, I think you made it clear that any neighborhood center, any of the other five you're looking at, is likely to come up with a different set of activities based on what their needs are and the community wants. So what you have is not a formula for us here in Gloucester, and that maybe some services we already have. It's really what the community wants and some kind of
Exactly.
purposes, community center to be designed here locally. And one element that I saw in the photo that was great to see is the green lawns and green space, because we definitely have a downtown that's lost a lot of trees and wetlands. And, so I think you had mentioned one artist is really into green stormwater or something. So what element and I know our counselor, Marjorie Grace, has expressed interest in having there, a beautiful kind of park, maybe trees too. Could you speak to how you look at incorporating green space in your facility?
Well, one thing I can say is that there's been a partnership with the Kiwanis Club and several other neighborhood associations, and they created what we call Centennial Park, which is right next to the library. And it's an all access park for people, ADA approved. And they also are incorporating the area around the green space around it. And they have a wildflower garden. They also have a creek over there that they're doing some type of environmental work on that, and they're getting ready to build an amphitheater in that area. So we are definitely incorporating the surrounding green spaces, and we're not trying to eliminate them at all. We're trying to enhance the use of them and make sure that the community knows that they're there and available to them.
Thank you. Okay, somebody else.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I have a very practical question. I agree that in a food desert, you really need a substantial grocery store, a full service. So what is the square footage of the 130,000 square feet in the building? How much of that is devoted to the grocery store?
Did you hear that, guys?
Richmond, what percentage of the square footage is the grocery store of the plaza?
25,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of hands going.
Hi. My question is, it looks like there was one acre organization that spearheaded this, and I think we're going to have a more collaborative effort here in Northeast Massachusetts. How is that going to be done in terms of this as a collaborative effort? And like mentioned, meeting, taking on the opinions, and getting it done. So is it going to make it, it's going to make it, seems like it'll make it a little more problematic, difficult. In terms of financing, in terms of getting it done as quickly as you did, which is stunning to me. But what are your thoughts on that?
That's a terrific question, and I'll repeat it just to make sure Richmond could hear it. The question was about collaboration, and there was an observation that there was strong leadership from a central organization to drive this project and make it happen.
Yes.
They think on their side that they might have like especially right now as they're starting, a broader collaborative approach. The conversations happening. How do you see, or you maybe you see some best practices around collaboration and leadership, or some guidance or thoughts that way as they do start to coalesce and try and develop a shared vision?
Yes, no, that's a fantastic question, and I think it's one of the most important aspects of the project is bringing those like-minded organizations to the table and having the discussion. Because if we did not get the support of the other organizations, we could not have done this. So our local health system, we needed their support because first of all, they were the ones who provided the health assessment that made us aware of the life expectancy gap there. They're the ones who provided that. And so we really relied on them. But I will tell you, it was the community partners who also agreed that, hey, this is what was needed in the community. And so, if you remember the whole Melrose Plaza Advisory Council, that was critical in all this because we started with it was two neighbors and one of the instructors from Roanoke local college who came to us and said, "Hey, we need a grocery store here in Richmond. I mean, we need it, and we've tried everybody, and no one's done it." So we started with them, but then we got the input from other organizations saying, "Hey, do you all think this is the right thing to do?" Because everyone we've talked to said they wouldn't come in and set up a grocery store. So, do you think if we do it, are people going to support it? And so organization after organization said yes, and community members said yes. And so we said, okay, wow, that's a great thing to do. But even to this day, we still have community partners who we work with. I'll say again, the health group, and then even with the grocery store, working with Feeding Southwest Virginia. And I'm sure you all have a local Feeding Southwest operation too. We have another group called LEAP, which is local environmental agricultural program, and they've also been a part of this because there was already a food system here. We didn't have a grocery store, but there's already a food system where seniors and others were getting food. And so we had to make sure that we came in and didn't disrupt that. We're a complement. So folks who still need that, that complimentary access to food, they still have that. we didn't replace that, and we didn't, put those folks out of business. We're still leveraging that to support the food, the complete food system here in the Roanoke area. So those collaborations were key. And the sooner you can get those folks together, I think the better. And then that way you can eliminate any duplication of efforts, because that's the one thing that we had to make sure is that we didn't step on anybody's toes either.
One else, would this Melrose, center would have been financially feasible? That's number one. And the second question I have is, from a geographical point of view, how far away are other grocery stores in relation to Melrose?
We couldn't hear the first part of the question.
What if there's an owner, private sector owner that owns it, and then how would you deal with that? And then the other one is, how close are other grocery stores?
If there was a private sector owner,
Yeah, here this Shaw's Plaza here is owned by a private property owner, and so how do you just basically suggest, if you bringing the community together, would you try to include or buy out, or what do you think about? Would it have been financially feasible to go and try to have the current owner sell it to you, or how do you just it's a different situation here. Just do you have some thoughts on that?
Well,
did you hear that?
so the first question was, so you have an important property in a community that could be, the community might see a transformational potential with the property. There may be a shared vision for what happens with the property, but it's in private hands. And so just kind of on the basics, the partners can be public, private,
Yes.
nonprofit. They can come from any part of the sector,
Yes.
or any sector. And every community and every project like this is unique. There's got to be, there's the relationship building, there's identifying the shared potential growth across partners. Of course, in a locality, in Virginia, the way we're structured, if a locality wants access to a property, their economic development authority can get access to that.
Mhm.
And if it is serving a public good. And there are ways to structure it, or create an LLC in which multiple partners
Yes.
participate in, or the community development corporation could be a structure for that as well. But it's, I think you look at the private property owner as another potential partner, and there may not be that much of a difference.
Yes.
That's my thought. What do you think, Richard?
No, I agree, Doug. I mean, I agree. It doesn't make a difference. But it does help to have, again, that lead organization to kind of to keep things moving forward, and then be the ultimate accountable organization for the success of the facility. Again, we have a number of partners, but but we see it as our responsibility to make sure that if there's any issues, if there's any concerns, if we need to pivot at some point, that there is a lead group that does that. But we do it in consultation with our partners. So, we have I think a really tight-knit group of partners who are part of this. And since there's municipalities, there's private sector, and then there's also the public sector, and then nonprofit. So we have a very good collage of folks who are a part of this project.
And I'd just like to add that the reason why it took so long for something like this to happened in Northwest was because the properties around here were all privately owned, and some of them would not sell. They would not sell the properties to the city or whomever was trying to make that development. So that was one of the things that took us decades to even get going on a project. And the fact that Goodwill already owned this property and the building was, the thing that made this happen, basically, because we didn't have to start from scratch. And we didn't have to graze the building and start all over again. We gutted a building that was already here and it was our building. And so that was it was just a great marriage of assets that we had with the city and Goodwill to make this project happen. And I can answer the other question too about the grocery store. It's about 3 miles away is the closest full service grocery store. Maybe even a little further than that, because once you leave that area, it's even further. So there's no walkability to a grocery store for the residents in this area.
So I'd also like to bring the second question that Councilor Jason Groh brought up in terms of your relationships with the City of Roanoke. Did you ever run into, well, the local zoning doesn't allow this kind of Melrose Plaza, and did you ever find the regulations or permits or zoning as any kind of constraint on what you pulled together as a community center and grocery store? How did the city regulations affect you in any way or not?
Well, I know this area was already zoned for commercial use because there had been a Goodwill store on the property at one point, and this building used to be a Kmart. So it was already zoned for commercial use. And there's a school right next door to us. So we had that's all zoning was already as well. I'm not sure about the other aspects of it, but I know that this area was already zoned for commercial use.
Yeah.
Well, we can take a few more. How about
you have a very impressive list of activities going on, and I don't mean to pile on more, but I am curious if housing ever became a topic of discussion and how you dealt with that. I mean, obviously you didn't pursue it, but I'm curious what conversations might have arose around the issue of affordable housing in particular.
And that's an important question in every community right now. I'm sure it probably did, and I'll let Richmond take that in a second. First, I will step back a little bit. In the city of Roanoke, they aggregate over a number of years their community development block grant funds and create a target area. And a few years ago, this was kind of the center of that target area. And during that period, we partner with our nonprofit affordable housing providers, whether it's Habitat for Humanity or there's an organization that helps with existing structures, do weatherization and rehab work. There's an organization that specializes in historic preservation-based affordable housing using the LIHTC and the historic preservation tax credits. And so we work with those partners and use the community development block grant funds to make housing improvements. And there were a good number of housing improvements in this area a few years ago. At the same time, we did about a little bit more than $1 million streetscape improvement on the blocks nearby, where there really is a kind of a nice little commercial district. There's a historic hardware store that had been pushed out and grocery store that had been pushed out during the urban renewal. And there's the Tribune is located in that area, the Black newspaper. It is a really important area. It looks, and that streetscape improvement looks terrific now.
Yes.
And one thing that I don't think we had done as well as we could, it's so important when you do an improvement like that to also help the businesses benefit from it. So do facade improvements at the same time, do entrepreneurship support, and I think we're growing that way in the community now. One thing we did do, and we have a few art-based bus shelters in the neighborhood. And we had
Sure.
an artist who interviewed people and had pictures submitted. So if you stand in the bus shelter now, you're surrounded by faces of the neighborhood. And
Mhm.
those streetscape projects that are important in attracting additional investment, you can spend a lot of money, you don't really see it sometimes, especially when it goes into guttering and curb improvement and such.
That's right.
And then you put this bus shelter in, and for very little additional amount, have an artist engage the neighbors and have the neighbors see themselves in it. It really can help attach people to those investments. And we had a council member who said, he said, the only reason we're doing this target area here is because we know we owe it to the community. We know what the decisions that have been made in the past have done, the devastation of that, and we have to make up for that. And so you'd hate to see investments being made. And I think a lot of the housing investments too, I don't think people quite know the number, and I wish I had it offhand. I don't want to say it without knowing it. I think we need to make a bigger deal about those investments too. The housing, the people who live in the neighborhood who are struggling in their home and to take care of their home, when we can use public dollars and help them stay in place and age in place in their home, that's a critical piece. This campus that we're talking about too, the Redevelopment and Housing Authority has I think the largest property right there across the street.
Yeah.
And I wish I knew how many families lived in there.
It's a
Um,
lot.
it is a lot, and you see, there's a community garden there on the site as well, and you see uh, families from other cultures using that community garden. The housing aspect is a piece of it, and I know we're continuing to try and address that because those CDBG funds only go so far, and I know we're looking, with the Housing Trust Fund and other strategies as well. But that was I'm sorry about that long kind of answer. It's a little bit of background. But Richmond, I do want to hear about if people are asked about housing as you got started on this project.
Yes, and if I could get just kind of clarification in terms of so what was the relation that the question was in terms of housing to the project?
So
It-
up to now, there have been discussions about putting a lot of housing at that site and maybe a few retail stores. So housing has been brought up for that site and doesn't sound like you incorporated. Was there interested in that, or how did you look at that question at Melrose Plaza?
I
It just wasn't a part of the scope of what we were trying to do at that particular time. The plaza, like I said, it was a building that was already constructed, and there was no way to add housing to that to that structure proper without building a whole nother structure. And even though we have land around us, it's more park land and that kind of thing. And like Doug said, there's a huge housing development right across the
Yes,
street. And
yes,
so we were not, it was not part of the scope of the project. We've been asked several times about, some people wanting to incorporate some other buildings around us for housing, and those buildings are not safe and, just not good, not deemed for housing purposes. So we have not ventured into that area because, like Richmond said, we're trying to do the best we can with the good things we're good at, great at, and we're trying to continue on that vein and let other folks work on the avenues that they're good and great at. And I think there will be some development. We've already seen some new businesses pop up
yes.
in the corridor, so we're hoping that the housing will follow suit as we keep going.
I had a question about affordable commercial space and if there's like a pathway to include that in the redevelopment. Because it can really benefit the community because, we talk about affordable housing, but if you give people space to have enterprise, then they can like support themselves. And like, I just think it'd be a shame if we ended up with like an AT&T store there, Golfer's Warehouse, and like a Gentle Dental as like the retail customers. I think that'd be a real miss.
That's a wonderful question. I'll step back a little bit to those 5 emerging neighborhoods that we talked about and showed on the map. We're in my day job with the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, we're the credentialing body for the Main Street program in Virginia. And the Main Street program it's a I'm kind of a fan of it because it's public-private based. It's a community partnership where you work to invest in a district. It is historic preservation-based community and economic development, and we've had great success with it over the last 40 years in Virginia. We work with we've got I think 35 credentialed cities. We're trying to use that model in Roanoke now and start to ask these questions. How do we invest in these neighborhoods as districts and support small businesses, help improve those 4 Main Street points, which are make it look good through design, activate it through promotions and events, organize collectively, create that civic muscle that's going to help make it be really strong. And most importantly, focus on the economic vitality and like what's the transformation strategy for that district. As we're doing that, we're focusing very initially on another neighborhood right now, 11th Street, which is 10, 12 blocks from there, but another kind of small 2 or 3 blocks commercial district. And with that, in kind of the larger organizing team, they've asked exactly that question. Is there a space for incubation of businesses? We have on that 11th Street, we do have a place called The Collective, which is a terrific Black-owned nonprofit and for-profit structure that is helping emerging businesses. And then we're asking the question, well, if we had a space where someone could pop up a store, is that because we have an old grocery store in that neighborhood that we're talking with the property owner about.
There's some really interesting models in like England, for example, where there's just like 10-foot by 20-foot stalls, that are lockable. Yeah. And like, it doesn't take much, but you can put a lot of those on a small space and you create a lot of like affordable commercial space.
Yeah, I love that you're looking at other models, and I think this conversation is probably just one of many you can be having in coming weeks and months where you just start to explore, and you'll find that at least with our Main Street structure, there are no secrets, there are no trade secrets. Somebody look at this. Donna and Richmond are happy to come here and tell you everything they can about the project because they believe in it and they hope there's something in there that you can take away with it. That might just even be a little inspiration. And as you come together in that room and you're listening, and I do think it's important to come together in a room together and have that energy focused on it and ask questions and laugh a little bit and think about it. Those are the relationships that are going to help make whatever you decide to do become a reality. So
that's so true, Doug.
So inspiring. So some more practical questions like, is this real?
Thanks. It's been exciting to see all your innovative ideas put into practice. But I'm wondering if you had ideas that also are equally innovative for attracting your target audience and getting them involved in the projects. How long did that take? And how do you measure the impact on both the community and the individuals? And second part of my question, I've often found it easier to get boards and businesses interested in glossy new ideas and pretty projects. How do you get them to sustain their interest and continue to fund the projects? Thanks.
We'll let Donna run with that one, I think.
The first part anyway. So getting the people involved, well, they were ready. Okay. This neighborhood was ready. As soon as we started talking about the project, everyone's ears were buzzed and they wanted to know. what's going on over at Melrose. So we started having those interest meetings even before the Melrose Plaza Advisory Council was assembled. So we just had pretty much like town hall meeting and let people come and listen to what is going to happen. We had some renderings, and some information about what we were going to do, and allowed the community to voice their opinions, and ask questions and provide suggestions. I myself would go to different organizations, make presentations at churches, at neighborhood association meetings, at schools, wherever, sorority meetings, pretty much wherever I was asked to go, I went and made those presentations. We participated in a lot of local festivals and those kind of things. Did a lot of tabling, presentations, so we would have information that was pretty handmade. We didn't have a logo, we didn't have a scheme, or a theme or anything. We just wanted to get the basic information out to the community and get their opinion. And they had a lot of them, and they didn't have a problem telling us what they were. So we listened to all of that. We had the big flip charts and let people come in and write down things, and we put all of that information together, got those collaborations started. It was a lot of work, a lot of leg work, and a lot of listening. It's important to listen. And we did all of that, and I think that is where the buzz in the community got started. Because I don't know about your community, but in our community, people like to start rumors. So if they don't have the correct information, my goodness, you would not believe some of the things I heard that was going to be at Melrose Plaza. So I had to go out and get the correct information out. And it was very important. I even did a presentation at the barbershop across the street, because I am a fan of grassroots marketing and presentations, because that's how it gets filtered out into the community. You go where the people are. If I'm at the grocery store and I was at another grocery store and said, "Hey, pretty soon we're going to have a new grocery store on Melrose," and I've seen some of those folks at that old grocery store that's still operating over here at our grocery store, because we have things they don't have. And so you have to go where the people are and talk to them, and get their information. And like I said, it's very, very important to listen.
And just a couple of comments because I want to feed off of what Donna says and why her role is so critical. Because Donna's also facilitating events at the Melrose Plaza to inspire attendance. So she's having things like we're gonna host we just host CHIP, which is our local organization that serves families here. She had that event there at the plaza. We plan to have job fairs, health fairs, nutrition fairs, so that we can promote the foods that the food that we sell in the grocery store. We can show folks how to cook, especially when it comes to produce. It's hard, because guys, my mom, when she cooked some of that produce, man, she cooked it all the way through, and it was real soggy, and it wasn't as tasteful. But when I finally got a chance to taste some real good grilled zucchini and squash, I loved it. And so I think a lot of people will get inspired by that and want to shop at the grocery store as well. I'm going to answer the second question when you asked about getting the board and getting those folks involved. That is so critical. That's my primary job, is to make sure I keep the board engaged into this project and that they understand now this is our mission. This project is our mission, and we got to support it. And then lastly, I'll say, when we did the capital campaign, that really engaged the business community. We had just about every single business in this region invested into this project. Every single one. We turned over every stone because we wanted to make sure this, obviously is rooted in the community, but the community needed to see that the business community also supported this project, and, not just on your words, but on your dollars. And they all invested into this project. And we have a really small community, so to raise over $3.5 million, that hadn't been done by any nonprofit in this community before at that level. So that really showed that it was just more than just this community. It was also a business community who also believed in this project.
So I'm going to say time is late. People have started to leave, but also I think what you've portrayed for us in such a human and open way, you must have imagination, inspiration, but you also have to have very practical solutions. And if you're not combining, sometimes practical people say you can't do anything, and then inspirational people are so visionary and they don't have the practical skills. And you have shown us how you've blended both sides of that, envisioning with real work and finances and organizational structure. And so I want everyone to please give them a huge round.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And you all stay warm.
Thank you.
Take care and keep in touch.
Absolutely. Doug, sir, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thank you both so much. Appreciate you.
No problem. This
Take
was
care.
great.
Good. Alrighty. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take